education sector, you'll come to realize that many of the traditional schools that we have are either phasing out or no longer peaking as they were in the early post-independence era of Uganda. And to put that conversation to bed is why we are having this topic this morning. I do have a guest coming in from the Laibi College, who is coming in from the Laibi College Old Boys Association, that is from northern Uganda. So our main focus this time around is to look at reawakening traditional schools in northern Uganda. Traditional, when you look at most of the schools, I think over the years, you've been able to see how different students are coming in different groups to come to create rather school leagues in Uganda. You look at Shakoba, you look at Ntale League, you look at so many of these old boys association in Uganda come up to create what we could call a reawakening spirit of their former schools. Our focus today is on northern Uganda, looking at how we can reawaken these traditional schools. How can we get parents back to these schools? How can we get them interested in taking their students back to these schools? And the bigger question is, why or how did we reach to a point where many parents have lost confidence in these traditional schools, those that were the plight of Uganda's education sector, especially at the level of college or high school, if I'm to put it in a better way? My guest this morning is none other than Mr. Patrick Luwita Odida, who is the chairman Central Executive Committee for Laoba, which is the Laibi College Old Boys Association. A very good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, my host and our viewers. I'm glad to be here and to discuss this very critical topic of reawakening traditional schools in northern Uganda.
Well, speaking of reawakening schools from northern Uganda, my viewer would want to know more about Laibi College and Laoba in general.
Thank you. St. Joseph's College Laibi was started as a technical school by the Verona Fathers. It is a Catholic-founded school in 1952, and then it got upgraded into a fully fledged secondary school in 1963. And from that time to date, the school has experienced a number of ups and downs on its path. But to begin with, from the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s, up to mid-2000, Laibi College was the giant of the northern Uganda in academics, performance, in games, and in sports. Prior to Laibi coming to the fore, we had other traditional schools like Sir Samuel Becker Secondary School, which dominated from the 40s, 50s, 60s. We had Sacred Heart Secondary School. This has been there for over 100 years. The school also dominated in the earlier 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Sacred Heart persisted also up to around 90s. And then we witnessed a decline in many aspects of the school. We had Gulu High School, where our former president, Dr. Apollo Milton Obote, was. The school also was performing very, very well. And we had Ombachi, St. Joseph's College Ombachi in Arua. We had the Diofe Girls. We had Kidgum High. We had Dr. Bore College in Lira. We had the Komboni College. We had so many of those traditional schools that many of us grew hearing their name prominently featuring in Uganda, especially in academic excellence, in games excellence and sports. And you may recall that the first gold medal that Uganda received was by Akibwa, and he came from Lira in northern Uganda.
Yes.
And that actually advertised Uganda as a country globally and gave us a lot of mileage as a country.
All right.
So Laibi College has been there, and then we had a dream by one of our famous head teacher, Father Connor, who actually put it in his own will and said that when he died, he must be buried in Gulu Archdiocese Cemetery, but his casket must be carried by the whole boys of St. Joseph's College Laibi. And then he passed on in 1994 in Nairobi Hospital. And when we learned about that, the whole boys who were available then gathered themselves together to fulfill the dreams and the aspiration of one of my famous head teacher in Father Corner. And that climaxed the start of Laoba. So Laoba started first to help bury our former head teacher, but it then later took shape and became a well-established all boys association on the 16th of September 2005. That is when we registered it as an association. We had a constitution, and from that time we have also, as a new association, went through the turbulent processes of formation. But I would say from 2016, we started by revamping Laoba. And from 2016, we have grown from strength to strength. And as we were growing as Laoba, we also held our school, St. Joseph's College, Laibi, and the transformation agenda in Laibi College also started. Maybe to let you know, in the UCE of 2015, St. Joseph's College, Laibi was number 984 by national ranking in academic performance. That has been our lowest in the history of Laibi College. During my days, I sat senior 4 in 1995, and we were number 8 in the country. And that was during war. We have had time when Laibi was number 5, was now number 3, and everybody sitting UC would get first grade during war time. Okay. So when we saw this happening, it caught our attention and said, no, this is not where our school belongs. So as the all boys, we came together and started to see, okay, what do we need to do? We carried an assessment of the school. We interacted with all the stakeholders of the school to discover the real extent of the damage, the breakdown.
And Patrick, on that assessment, I would wish to understand, what are some of the points that you were able to establish as to why the school was performing that way, or it had actually lost in the rankings? And then not only that, what are some of the other issues at hand that have led to the, I won't use the word collapse, or that have actually led to the deteriorating results of traditional schools in northern Uganda?
Right, thank you. Thank you for that question. And I think that the answer could be true to many other traditional schools, but it is not specifically the same at all level. Okay. But what happens is that when we established a fact-finding mission team in 2016 and sent them to the ground, they interacted with the administration then, they interacted with the students, they interacted with the board of governors, the PTA, the founding body, and even the surrounding community to find out, and the question was one to all these stakeholders, what has gone wrong to find ourselves in this situation? And I can tell you, we like blame games, but a few things stood out. Number one, we discovered that there were total system breakdown. The school was being run and managed in an ad hoc manner. Curriculum delivery was at its lowest. Many of the teachers were not committed to their jobs. There was something called moonlighting, where teachers would just appear in the school for 1 or 2, 3 periods in the whole week, and they disappear the whole week. And somebody is earning government salary for working in that school as a teacher, full-time teacher. And then we had the issues of discipline. Indiscipline of the student was at its highest. The student was so indisciplined that a number of times they're even out of the school. And then there were some borers, exit routes that the student would use. And then we found a situation where the parents are so distant from the school. You call parents for parents' meeting, very few, not even a quarter of the total population of the parents would turn up for the meeting. And so everybody was actually not doing his or her job. The board of governors then also did not have hands-on in the school to make sure that the school is being managed and run in line with the standards established by the Ministry of Education and Sports, and so forth and so forth. So many things were at total breakdown. And because of that, we used one of our brains, who is supposed to be here, but is training another team in the person of Charles Odoz Langoya, and we converted the problems into what we call strategic objectives and thematic areas.
Okay.
The thematic areas, what do we need to do to change all this? The culture of the school had changed. If you had been in that school during the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and you went in 2015, 2016, you would not believe that was the school. Because culture plays a big role in shaping students in these schools. but our culture had eroded completely. We had a culture of hard work-paid students would go and read. I did MEG in Laibi in A-level. And when we started the whole of senior 5, we didn't have a mathematics teacher. But we would study on our own.
Okay.
We would study on our own and we were serious and committed. But this time around, you would find students do not even want to study. They don't want to go to church. They are so indisciplined. You call them that, the whole boys want to talk to you. Hey, who are they? They wouldn't even want to stay away. So the culture was completely eroded. So many things happened. But the beauty is that we were able to convert all these problems into thematic areas with clear strategic goals and came up with a 10-year strategic plan for the school, which we shared with the governing body, the Board of Governors, the founding body, the Catholic Church, and then the PTA, and they were able to buy in and endorse the strategic plan. That was supposed to run from 2017 to 2027.
How far is it?
Now, we had a situation where the head teacher then received the strategic plan and filed it. It wasn't being put to use until we again started mounting pressure as the whole boys from 2020. And I can confirm that for the last 2 years, the strategic plan of St. Joseph College Laibi is the hand tool of the head teacher.
Okay.
And within the strategic plan, it is very key of what each party is supposed to do.
When you mentioned the strategic plan, I wish to know, what are some of the core, points that you highlighted? What are some of the core things that you want to first work on to ensure that the school is revamped to its glory days?
The first thing was we needed to transform the culture because the culture had gone. And that is always the pride of any traditional school.
True.
So what we did in 2017, to start with, we organized a cultural transformation visit to St. Mary's College Kisubi, where we took as a representation of students, the prefects, teachers, and management. And we took them and put them in Kisubi for 2 weeks to help them learn the culture in Kisubi, because we are sister as government institution, but also secondary school funded by the Catholic Church. So we have a lot of common practices. But also in the good days when Laibi used to perform very well, we would not fear smack. We would compete on the same level. And a number of times we also beat them in academics and games. So we thought that we needed to get back there. So the first thing was cultural transformation. The second thing was the issues of discipline. We got the school rules from St. Joseph's College, Nagalama, and then St. Mary's College, and built our own in terms of benchmarking. So we had strict school rules that would bring discipline on the students. So the second thing was the issues of discipline. The third thing was the issues of curriculum delivery. We introduced a system of departmental production of notes. So the teachers of one particular department, all the teachers sit together, produce the notes, and each teacher is supposed to teach both vertically and horizontally. And so there's nothing like cooning yourself to your class until you produce poor results. So they check and balance.
Okay.
Yeah. The third thing was spiritual growth. So the fourth item we are addressing in our strategic plan was the spiritual growth. We talked to the archdiocese, they posted us a new Reverend Father, and as I talk now, if the church is supposed to start at 8, by 7:55 the church is full.
Okay.
The students go willingly, and then you find all the students are committed to the church. Of course, it is part of the school rules, but you also see the interest growing because you are not forced to become a choir member, for example, in the church.
Okay.
But you are required by the school rule to go and pray.
I want to understand as well, how has been the reception from the current parents?
I would say that the reception has largely been good, but we are not yet at the level we would want to be.
Okay.
If you see some of these good performing schools in this country today, parents are expecting the school on the bare minimum 3 times every term. You got to drop your child to school yourself.
Yes.
You must go back for visitation. You may also have class days for each of the classes.
True.
Then on holidays, you got to go and pick up the child.
So,
the parents and teacher relationship came closer. They interact, so they are able to understand this modern child and know how better you can help that child in his academic endeavors, because the parents and the teachers have a relationship. But in Laibi, it is improving. I want to say this. It has improved from where we pick it up from, but there is still a gap. And one of the things we want to address is to make sure that the parents are drawn closer to their schools. And so they pick interest and they can ask questions to the management. They can also follow up their students, their pupil, and be able to tell when a child is not doing something right. Both teachers and parents are speaking the same word to the same child. Chances are high that that child is going to reform. And so that is one of the things that we are pushing. The fifth thematic areas is games and sports.
Yes.
We used to do very well, but again, by 2015, everything was at lowest.
Because I've seen 2017, you hosted the East African Games.
Yes.
And then just a few years as well, before 2017, you had hosted Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola, yes.
That is a football competition for schools.
We may have
clearly showed that the school was going back.
Yeah, and to make that happen, the whole boys had to come together from 2017 to 2018. We actually, 2017-18, we built an Olympic-sized swimming pool in a record of 107 days. And it was done by the whole boys, with the support of other stakeholders, of course.
Okay.
But we had a problem because there is no school in this country that could host that game, the Commonwealth game. And one of the limiting factors was a swimming pool of that size, 10 lane, which we don't have in this country. But the whole boys in Laoba were able to put this down, and right now, it is the biggest in East Africa.
Oh, okay.
I have already received a computation from Tesokole Saloyet, who wants to do something near that or more than that.
And I want to look at it. I think that is good to the old boys as well. But amongst your strategy plan, let's talk about the infrastructure. A couple of times, many of the traditional schools are still having the old infrastructure with them. And believe it or not, today, many things excite parents while choosing schools for their children, and infrastructure is one of those. And our traditional schools today are still having the structures they had at the start of the school. How are you going to work upon that to make sure that you remodernize these structures?
You are very right. So I think one of the biggest challenge that the traditional schools across this country face is infrastructure. And this is partly so because I think for a long time, government had removed its hand off supporting this, and they are government schools. So at St. Joseph's College Laibi, the whole boys, we have addressed the infrastructure component from games and sport perspective. But for the classroom, dormitories, and the laundries, as the whole boys, we have not yet done much. But what we have done, we have tried to lobby partners, including government. Probably you saw the communication from the PS Education. Government has a program to revamp 62 traditional schools in this country.
Yes, today's Daily Monitor is highlighting more of that.
Yeah, we have also been trying to strategize our position to make sure that our school benefits out of this. But infrastructure projects, if you put it on the whole boys, you're actually asking the government to vindicate its roles. Yes, the whole boys can do something, but in my perspective, that should not be the core function of the whole boys.
True.
Because the whole boys can do something, but we need to
the school administration, the
delineate
government,
what we call the conventional function of government from that which come from other stakeholders. And so the other stakeholders come to support. Now, when you're coming to support, you need to know that it is not your primary responsibility. And the person's primary responsibility, the bearer of the primary responsibility, must also be seen to be in charge of his role. I like to give an example of a housewife and a maid. You must draw a line between what a maid can do and the housewife had got to do.
Yes.
Yeah. So in terms of infrastructure, the whole boys have adapted infrastructure from games and sports. We did the swimming pool. We are putting an international cricket ovals and practicing nets. We are doing a gate that is befitting of the stature of our school in terms of attracting students to come to the school.
Yes.
But we have also continued to lobby government. We have been to Ministry of Education. We have also gotten some few education partners that are coming up to do a few other infrastructure.
And well, of course, when you talk about revamping northern Uganda schools, you also have to look at revamping traditional schools entirely in the country. There are lots of things to discuss about, and Richard here mentioned something very critical: absenteeism of teachers. This is something very common with traditional and public schools in the country, where many teachers are not showing up, or when they show up, they will only appear once in a week or even twice a month. That is something that is that has actually led to results of these schools, declining year in and year out. So revamping them is a bigger conversation, but when you start, it is always good, because the best way to start is to get going. And as Laibi, or what you could call a Laibi College School, is having all these revamping strategies put in place, one of which is a marathon. And they have a second edition of the Marathon 2024. And after the break, we're going to be discussing more about that, because it does seem like they are putting the efforts right, not only when it comes to sport, but also bringing back the culture of a school that was once the greatest, or one of the greatest, in northern Uganda. After the break, we have conversation rotating around the Laoba Marathon, second edition 2024. We need to see which stakeholders are on board and what is the reception coming forth, because it's the second edition. We also need to have results of what transpired with the first edition of the same. You're still watching Good Morning Uganda Extra. After the break, we continue with more conversations. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso. Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala, we have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
TB kills approximately 30 people daily, and 247 Ugandans fall ill of TB disease every day. TB has killed dreams and families. We all deserve a chance in life to hustle, smile. We all deserve a chance to dream and be the best version of ourselves. It is preventable and curable. Know your status. TB testing, treatment, and all TB-related services are free in all government hospitals and accredited private health centers.
Juko.
Yo.
Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Loud 20 reaches there.
Oh, all right. And we'll be back from the break. We have a conversation here ongoing. But nonetheless, we are back to make sure that you're part of this as well. As we continue our conversation of revamping traditional schools in northern Uganda. And the beauty about this conversation is, if you've not been to a traditional school, at least you've interacted with people from traditional schools, and you know how much pride everyone from a traditional school carries with them. It is of much pride and prestige, if I'm to put it in that way, if you've been through any of those traditional schools, because they had value. It is more like a cult. It is culture. And almost all the traditional schools have their own cultures that push them even in the working environment and how they connect with the outside world. So speaking of revamping, you would wish to revamp these traditional schools. Why? Because one of the reasons as to why we are losing it all with our education sector is the fact that schools end up closing even before the children who have been through it or the students who have been through it are done with their graduation. So if you're to trace back your educational background, I'll just give you this one as a test for you, our viewer. Are your schools still present? Like if you went to a school in primary, if you're to go back today, is that infrastructure still standing? Or there is an arcade over there, or there is something else, or there is a farm, I don't know. But try to think about it. It is of huge importance when you have your school that nurtured you into who you are. And our conversation today is focusing on northern Uganda, but pretty much focusing on Laibi College, one of the greatest schools of this nation. I still have Odida Patrick Luita, who's the chairman, Laoba Central Executive Committee, and of course, Laoba is the Laibi College Old Boys Association. Before the break, I mentioned something to do with the marathon that is in its second edition. They have a second edition of the Laoba Marathon. I don't know what the first marathon entailed, and I would wish Patrick to take us through that journey as well. When did the first marathon take place? And then also, how was, what was the attendance like? Were the numbers the exact ones you had predicted or expected? Oh.
Thank you, Paul. We had our first inaugural Laoba Marathon last year in April.
Okay.
And why the marathon concept? We thought that we must have a medium where we bring together all the education actors in the region and then try to reawaken them. Okay. Because when you say revamping education, there are key stakeholders you got to address. We had an estimation of 200 people, but we got 865 attendants, people who turned up for the marathon. It was one of that beautiful moments that you see the population of northern Uganda coming together for a common cause. And the key resounding, what I would call the agenda of the marathon, or what you call the theme of the marathon that year, was reawakening traditional schools in northern Uganda. And that was ably presented by our chairman, board of trustees, and that's a key message to take home for everybody who turned up. We were happy that we had about 7 members of parliament, the local leaders, we had the technocrats in the educations in the districts in northern Uganda, we had the whole boys and whole girls. Whoever went to school probably is an old boy or an old girl of some school somewhere.
True.
And we invited all the alumni in the region. We had great support from other stakeholders like Gulu Regional Referral Hospital, St. Mary's Hospital, Lacho, who gave us the first aid. And then we have a school called Institute of Health Science, which also gave us the first aid team, and so many partners. But what I want to take home from the marathon as a big lesson is that sports is a great uniting factor.
True.
I have seen somebody supporting Manchester United in Gulu, building a friendship with somebody based in London, just simply because they support one club.
Of Manchester.
Yes. Oh, yes. So if you see the Fofa drum, for example, you see how the northern Uganda people unite. Even when Acholi are going to play with the Bunyoro, you will find West Nilers and the Langi people coming to join the Acholi.
And just to also pass it, Lango are the current champions of the region.
And do you know the person who was leading them was a member of parliament from Amuro, he's an Acholi.
Oh.
So you see that level, that the strength that sports has in uniting people.
Yes.
And that is the main point, that we thought that the marathon should help us unite for one cause and say we want to reawaken our schools. Even when these schools are at their lowest, there are people who are happy and they're comfortable with the status quo. So it's going to take an effort to wake them up and say, wait a little bit. This is not what we want. This is not what we deserve. We demand better. And through the marathon, we were able to send out a strong message. And we realize also that reawakening is not just an event. It is a whole process. There are people who are deep sleeper. So if you just knock once and you think you have woken up the person will remain sleeping. So we want to make it a continuous effort to make sure that everybody who has a role to play in education in northern Uganda wake up and be seen to be doing something to revamp education in northern Uganda.
Oh, wow. Now, we talk matters, the marathon, the second edition. What are the objectives? What are you aiming at with the second edition? Because by the look of things, having the second edition shows that you are really dedicated to this.
Exactly.
Because it shows a level of consistency, having a second edition. That is more like a follow-up of the inaugural.
Exactly.
But now, looking at this second edition, what are your objectives with this one, and when is it going to take place?
Oh, thank you. Paul, the second edition is going to be on 30th of March, 2024, just this Saturday. At 7, we shall be taking off from St. Joseph's College, Laibi. And then we'll go around the city and come back to the same place. Our theme for this year is consolidating the gains of reawakening traditional school.
Okay.
We want to continue insisting that people wake up and do something. The marathon has 4 specific objectives. Objective number 1, of course, we want to consolidate the gains we have scored so far in reawakening traditional schools. For instance, in Laibi College, we have a scorecard system where we measure performance on an annual basis against the thematic areas. So we can tell where our school is going based on that. But we want to set and cascade it across the region. The second specific objectives, we want to strengthen partnership. If you want to cause an education reforms, you're not going to go it solo. You need the contribution and support from other stakeholders, because different stakeholders have different roles that they can play to do this. And so we need that to handhold each other. We need the partnership so that we are able to put it together and be able to make a bigger effort. The third objective is that we want to mobilize the whole boys and whole girls, wherever you are, wherever you went. We want to ask you that, can you take efforts to go back to your school, just as you said? Can you do something to help your school? Can you realize that we are not doing well? Okay. I want to give an example. Sir Samuel Becker Secondary School is one of our pride in northern Uganda. In the 50s, 60s, 70s, Sir Samuel Becker was over the moon in all spheres of life.
Okay.
And we reached a point from I think the mid-2000 coming up to 2020, the school hardly had enrollment. So much so that you even find student enrollment is as low as below 100. Actually, in 2022, when we went to Ministry of Education, we found 5 traditional schools in Uganda had applied to Ministry of Education to be deregistered because they don't have enrollment. Okay. So we want to ask the whole boys and the whole girls to go back and support their schools.
Okay.
The last thing we want to do on Saturday is to do fundraising. As I said, we want to do a gate. We want to do a magnificent gate that gives us a prominence in the region. And that gate design is done by our own OB, the one that also did the swimming pool. And we are at the take-up stage for the gate, and we want to do some fundraising to make sure that we deliver the gate. So those are the 4 specific objectives for the marathon.
And speaking of that marathon, I don't know, for the old boys who are watching, how can they be part of this? Because you believe since the world is diverse, everyone is in different destinations right now, different locations rather. How can they contribute? You know, if they are to send money to, let's say, you know, the revamping of the school or be part of the marathon, maybe not physically, but through financial support.
Oh, thank you. We have actually already so far received some support.
Okay.
We have our members all over the world. The marathon is open to the public. Anybody is free to come. Our chief runner is the Chief Justice of the Republic of Uganda. We have other dignitaries that have confirmed attendance. But so when I'm making appeal for the marathon, I'm inviting the whole world. I'm not only inviting Laoba members.
Okay.
I'm inviting the whole world.
Because it's for a good cause.
This is for a good cause, and also we are only not reawakening Laibi, we are reawakening the entire region and all the education actors.
Yes.
And so it is all-inclusive event. We need everybody on board. And then again, the marathon, we are trying to make sure that if there is going to be support towards the gate or towards the marathon, we have an account in Laoba. We operate a current account with the DFCU Bank. who is one of our partners. And so you are able to wire your money from wherever you are to that account, and it will be able to be captured and accounted for. And, but the biggest support is, number one, we want to wake up and rise up in one accord and say, education is the only thing left for our region. You can cry about the land, about the poverty, about everything, but I can tell you educated population can stand their ground, can reclaim the land back, can do anything. So you need the education as the fundamental pillars for a region. Educated population is easy to develop. It is easy to engage them in an activity because they will understand. The exposure will be good. But they will most likely also have some level of income. With the current competent-based curriculum, educated up to maybe secondary school, you should be able to do something on your own. You're not going to sit back and continue begging. So we look at education as the game changer for our region.
Wow.
And therefore, this marathon is meant to send that message, to rally people to come together as a region and speak in one accord that let us revamp education in our region. One more painful thing.
Okay.
At the beginning of every term, I think DFCU did a research. Northern Uganda loses now close to 10 billion in school fees. That crosses Karuma to come to the south.
To the south.
Yeah.
To very many.
Now, what does it mean to a local economy? Now, when we revamp education in the region and the traditional schools start performing well, all that money is going to be retained within the region. So it's going to boom the businesses in our locality.
And it's actually affecting many regions in the country.
Exactly.
You see Eastern Uganda, even the traditional schools in Eastern Uganda, many are bringing the children to the central part.
Exactly. So we want to lead the way and say, wait a little bit. You can actually reform education institution in your own region and they start performing well. I can tell you, Laibi pick up from number 984 in 2015 UCE results, and now last year we were number 67. And we got 100 first grade, 22 second grade, no third grade, no fourth grade, no nothing. What does it mean? If this effort is persistent for the next 5 years, Laibi will be able to competently compete with any school in Uganda.
Back to the glory
our
days.
School fees is only 780,000.
And that is good.
I send my children to SMARC, to Nagalama, to Setahai, to Namugongo. We pay lowest 2.2 million per term, but Laibi is 780. So we would be able to allow many more people access quality education, but we are going to boom the local economy in our region.
Okay, and I wish to also pick some of your recommendations going to all the traditional schools, not only in northern Uganda, because as much as we're speaking of the traditional schools, you'll still only mention a few that are still standing strong. You mentioned SMARC, you mentioned Budo,
King's College,
you mentioned
Namagonga.
These are some of the traditional schools that you're looking at, really. So how are we revamping the others? And others may not be at the edge of collapsing, but when it comes to the results, they are no longer competing favorably with these privately owned institutes.
In 2022, Laoba initiated an idea of organizing an education symposium.
Okay.
Where we wanted to communicate the reawakening or revamping agenda for our education system. We discussed this with the top management of Ministry of Education and Sports, and we even had an invitation by the ministry to have 2 more meetings. Number 1 is to have a meeting with all the top management, but number 2, to have a meeting with all the 8 teachers of traditional schools in Uganda. That was an initiative that Ministry of Education and Sport had supported. But when we had Ebola outbreak, that was in November, and that was the time we were supposed to have the symposium. But the Ministry of Education is working with us. We are partnering together, and they have reminded that Laoba should be able to cascade this initiative across the country. And it is a big dream. It needs a lot of careful thinking in terms of logistical arrangement, in terms of the audience that you're able to attract. But that is one of the ways that we think that this message can go down. One thing stand out, we need transformation in the culture, but we need to introduce a scorecard performance management system in the schools. If we are saying teachers are not showing up, what is happening? Okay. You will agree with me, the DEO and the inspector of schools in the 70s and 80s were much, much fewer and covering wider area, but they were more effective than the many we have now. So teachers can miss school, there's nothing wrong with it.
And you wonder
and you have so many inspectors. So what has happened? Now we need to think through this together with the government and said, what do we need to do differently? And to make sure that people do not just receive government salary, but they go to earn it. I work for government, and I want to always earn my salary. I just don't want to receive money that is not my own.
Yes.
So we need to get people to do their job. The ministry has revised what we call teacher to student ratio, what period each teacher must deliver in a week, in a month. And so the next thing is now, can we confirm that this is happening in real time, on the ground? How many schools, how many of these traditional schools finish their curriculum, for example, before sitting UNEP? You'd find that very few do so. So what has happened? What do we need to do differently to make sure that if these standards set by Ministry of Education are followed, I'm sure this curriculum will be delivered before exams. And you cannot go and examine a student who has not been taught something and expect the same student to pass at the same level with somebody who has been taught. It's completely different. It's like somebody in shortwave, the other one is FM. You'll never understand each other. You can't compete. And so I think that is the point that we need to pick up from. We are happy to partner with any like-minded corporations or institutions that want to carry this education transformation agenda in traditional school. You see, the population of Uganda has more than triple. That means we need more schools. And as people continue to produce, we need more schools.
Yes.
But even as more schools come, can we also retain the old one, continue to perform well?
Because we need that legacy moving
so
forward.
that everybody can access quality education.
I'll choose to ask, lastly, who are some of the partners that have stood with you during this entire journey of revamping, the ones that started with you, the ones that have joined on board, because this is for a good cause, regardless of whether it's an NGO, private sector, or government sector, or government entity? Which are those people or groups of companies that have stood with you towards this journey?
Thank you very much for that question, and this gives me an opportunity to also send out my thoughts and appreciation to the below listed institution corporations that have stood with Laoba and Laibi College. Number one is our founding body, the Archdiocese of Gulu Archdiocese. We had a discussion with the Archbishop, Dr. John Baptist Odama, and we laid before him our dreams and what we want to do, how we want to do it, and he gave us a blessing. He has been very supportive to this. He has also last year organized the Archdiocese Education Week, trying to carry around the reforms agenda to other stakeholders. We are very proud of the DFCU Bank. They have stood with us. They have supported our causes. And then we have Gulu Regional Referral Hospital. We have Waiteka Foundation. We have Real Investment. We have the Uganda People's Defense Forces. They stood with us from 2017. They supported us in our swimming pool. Last year, they sent a contingent to participate in our marathon, and we are proud to associate with them. We have had the Uganda Police. Just last evening, I got a clearance from the IGP that this event is good, let it go on. We have got the Sister Alumni Association. We have partnership with the Shoga, Secretariat All Girls. We have Gosha Gulu High All Student Association. We have Sabosa, Sir Samuel Becker. We have Gusosa. We have so many other sister alumni. We always try to work together with them. We communicate with them, and we are partners in this together, because a reform education system in the region is a benefit to all, not just to one. And then we have also had support. The Office of the Chief Justice has been with us. We have a wider initiative that is driving in reforms in the Greater North, and he has, together with Ambassador Dr. Lara Tunu, they have identified Laoba as a strategic partner to work with in reforms of the education sector. The Ministry of Education and Sports have been part of this from the very beginning, because, you know, there are things that Laoba or the college may not be able to do. Even the founding body may not be able to do, because the ministry is government, it's representation of the government, the authority that it be. But I want to say that we are sincerely very, very proud with the Ministry of Education for the fact they have supported Laoba. In 2022, we actually got offer to support some of the projects we are doing. And when we make some requests to the ministry, they're able to listen to us, because they have bought into our line of thoughts, and they're able to support from the part that we request from them. And I think sooner or later, we are going to be able to access some of the partners to the ministry for some of the initiative we want to undertake that may be beyond our financial marshals at the moment. And so we are proud of the support that the Ministry of Education has given us. National Water and Sewage Corporation, when we are doing our swimming pool, has been with us. And then the Minister of Education, Minister of Water and Environment supported us, and we are proud of them, and we want to continue walk the journey with Laoba, walk the journey with Laibi College, and we want Laibi College to be a model school, that whatever good that is happening in Laibi can now then be cascaded to all the other schools in the region. But we are also happy to take up a national task in terms of the reforms agenda. And Ministry of Education is aware of this, and they have already communicated to us, and we'll see how to properly partner and move the agenda forward.
Well, speaking of moving the agenda forward, 30th March 2024, Laoba is waiting for all of you to be part of this ever-changing journey of revamping. It's never an easy journey, but it's always good to start. And of course, for everybody who wishes traditional schools well, you can be part of the marathon as well. For the people in northern Uganda, I want to believe you will be part of this one. We have so many viewers that side. And well, for those of you who have actually been part of Laibi College, St. Joseph's College, Laibi, I think it is high time you join this for a good cause. You can be part of the journey of revamping. Maybe you can contribute where need be, because infrastructure is highly needed, support is highly needed for this, and also encouraging the students to uplift the culture of Laibi College. My guest this morning has been Odida Patrick Luita, who is the chairman, Laoba Central Executive Committee. Our topic of discussion has entirely been rotating around revamping traditional schools in northern Uganda, reawakening these schools in northern Uganda, the traditional schools that have always been pushing for a better culture of Uganda's education sector. We do not want to see them dying, however much we want to pull up new schools that are coming up every other year. But we also need the traditional schools back up, because this is where we draw, or this is where we benchmark from, because these were formed on roots that have established and groomed better citizens of this country. And well, the marathon of Laoba is also further focusing on reawakening these particular traditional schools in northern Uganda. For all of you who have actually been part of the entire show from 6:30 a.m., thank you very much. I am Joram Paul Sonko, here for Chantal Oliver Kandinda, here for Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono, here for Ruben Pima Chibirango, and here for Olive Monica Najuma and Allen Namisango for the entire Good Morning Uganda production and presenting team. Till tomorrow, same time, we wish you all the best for your Wednesday morning. And it's the Holy Week, and we do expect everything to move on quite well for all of you. Good morning and have a blessed day.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.